To be the face of Nike means looking something beyond a regular person. As someone familiar with Nike's marketing operations says, in regard to Curry, everything that makes him human and cuddly and an unlikely monster is an anathema to Nike. They like studs with tight haircuts and muscles. This, then, is the paradox of Steph Curry. The reason he was ignored is the reason he's so popular. Nike looked past him for the very reason so many fans now can't look anywhere else.
Put that coffee down.
Creators are leaders. Be careful what kind of leaders you're producing here.
Helen, we're both in sales. Let me tell you why I suck as a salesman.
They realized that to be in power, you didn't need guns or money or even numbers. You just needed the will to do what the other guy wouldn't.
I'm not leaving. The show goes on.
Well, hello there, friend. Welcome to the Construction Leadership Podcast. I am your host, Bradley Hartman. So today's episode is a little bit different. What you're going to be hearing is a custom case study that we wrote and is included in the curriculum for the OSR Academy. That's the Outside Sales Rep Academy, designed to help salespeople in the construction industry master the fundamentals over a year, online and in person, learning virtually, but again, specific to construction. So several years ago, I think it was 2016, I read this article in ESPN, and all I could visualize were insights and lessons around leadership and management and relationship selling and so many other things that I immediately saw how this could be a case study. So we kind of added on some elements from a book that I wrote to make something unique. Now, we found more and more people are spending a lot of time in their vehicles post-pandemic and thought this could really be something that's worth sharing. So whether you're in sales or not, this story that you're going to hear, which is about Steph Curry and Under Armour and Nike, is a story that has lessons for absolutely everybody. So that's why we wanted to make available. There is kind of a double introduction here. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail immediately after this, but I wanted to give you a heads up as what you are getting into. If you're interested in getting a copy of this, go ahead and email us directly at info@bradleyhartmanandco.com. I know, it's a long URL. Info@bradleyhartmanandco.com. We'll get that out to you, but you're going to enjoy this. It's different. It's fun. And I got my close friend who used to work in the construction community, has been in Los Angeles as an actor and a writer for the past 2 decades. His name's Jack Kennedy. He's a total character. He does many things, among them voiceovers. So I had him do the heavy lifting on the reading so you could listen to something just a little bit different. And then I'm kind of slicing in for a little color commentary, and we're going to share it with you. And I hope you get value from it. So as always, thanks for listening. I'm still a Nike guy. I grew up near Chicago during the Jordan era, and my dad bought me my first pair of Jordans, black Jordan 3s, in 5th grade. I was 12 when the Bulls won their first of 6 championships. At age 14, I sent my original shoe designs to Nike headquarters in Beaverton, Oregon. They were summarily returned quickly for legal reasons. And a 15-foot Nike swoosh hung in my bedroom in high school. I wore the black patent leather Air Jordans, the 11s, to my senior year prom. Yes, true story. In college, my football team had a shoe deal with Reebok. Blaming blisters, I ditched the free kicks and I bought my own Nikes. On my keychain right now, I have a Nike medallion from a 1997 purchase. You get the idea. I'm a Nike loyalist. But about 10 years ago, Under Armour appeared on my radar with the "We must protect this house" ad campaign. If you don't remember that, you could either Google it so you can have reference to that noise I just made. Otherwise, you'll be fine. Why would anyone choose to compete against Nike? I thought. What a waste of time. Over time, Under Armour gained momentum. Then in 2015, Under Armour dominated as golfer Jordan Spieth won everything in sight while sporting 8 Under Armour logos. Yes, 8. I counted them. And of course, there was Steph Curry. I knew that Curry used to be a Nike guy. What happened? I thought. Well, I got my answer when ESPN staff writer Ethan Sherwood Strauss published this article. There were so many sales lessons, good and bad. I wanted to share them with you. Turns out the best case studies are the real ones. I hope you enjoy it and find value in it.
It's November 17th, 2015, and it's throwback jersey night in Oakland. Steph Curry flaunts a retro look as he readies himself to play the Raptors. The reigning MVP strolls into the locker room, sporting bright yellow shorts at what can only be described as 1970s length. After he ties his Under Armour Curry 2 sneakers, he dresses for the most public of preparations. By this point, it has become clear that fans are showing up earlier in increasing numbers just to see Curry warm up. His is now a cult of personality so powerful thousands flock to see a man play basketball against the air. Before Curry trots out to the screaming throngs, the man who can move a nation's worth of money explains his short shorts. He smiles and proclaims, "I'm going Bazemore style." Bazemore style, as in Bazemore's bold penchant for wearing shorts that are briefer than briefs. Bazemore was a Warrior once, an undrafted rookie in 2012 who seized scraps of attention with yoga pose celebrations from the bench. Back then, while collecting do not plays, he got on the ground floor of something that rose because he asked Curry to lift it. Since he entered the league, Bazemore style has also meant being swaddled in Under Armour apparel. He's like the biggest spokesman for the brand, says Curry, the actual biggest Under Armour spokesperson. Always wears new stuff, wears my stuff. You can often see Bazemore wearing Curry's signature shoes. Increasingly, America's youth are joining in that predilection. On March 3, 2016, Business Insider relayed a note from Morgan Stanley analyst Jay Soule on Under Armour's business prospects. In it, Curry's potential worth to the company is placed at more than a staggering $14 billion. Soule's call on Under Armour's stock is bearish relative to other prognosticators, but for one man's power to change everything. His note reads, Under Armour's U.S. basketball shoe sales have increased over 350% year to date. Its Stephen Curry signature shoe business is already bigger than those of LeBron, Kobe, and every other player except Michael Jordan. If Curry is the next Jordan, our call will likely be wrong. What few fans know is the backstory of all this. How the most electric player in a generation slipped through the grasp of the most powerful sports apparel company in the world, and how Under Armour pulled off the marketing heist of the century. In the 2013 offseason, coming off a year in which Curry had started 78 games and the Warriors had made the Western Conference semis, Nike owned the first opportunity to keep Curry. It was its privilege as the incumbent with an advantage that extended beyond vast resources. I was with them for years, Curry says. It's kind of a weird process being pitched by the company you're already with. There were some familiar faces in there. Curry was a Nike athlete long before 2013, though. His godfather, Greg Brink, works for Nike. He wore the shoes growing up, sported the swoosh at Davidson. In his breakout 54-point game at Madison Square Garden on February 28, 2013, he was wearing Nike Zoom Hyperfuse, a pair of sneakers he still owns, tucked away in his East Bay Area home, shielded from the light of day. Nike had every advantage when it came to keeping Curry. Incumbency is a massive recruiting edge for a shoe company, as players often express a loyalty to these brands their NBA franchises might envy. And Nike wasn't just any shoe company. It's the shoe company that claims cultural and monetary dominance over the sneaker market. According to Nick DePaula of The Vertical, Nike has signed 68% of NBA players, more than 74% if you include Nike's Jordan brand subsidiary. In the 2012 Olympics, Mike Krzyzewski, a Nike endorser, coached an entire roster of 11 Nike-signed athletes and Kevin Love, who merely wore the shoes.
Hey there, Bradley Hartman here. I'm going to slide in for a quick little note. I think it's really important that everyone remember that even the strongest relationships can change over time. So you want to be alert, you want to be available, you want to be helpful, and you want to be persistent. The easiest way to do this is to continuously deliver value first. So even if you are a prospect and you say, hey, I'm working with Nike and I'm really loyal to them, you say, that's fine. In our industry, there are thousands of things every single day that are changing. It's a very dynamic environment. Would it be okay if we just built a relationship where I'm going to share information with you? I want to help you succeed regardless of whether you work for us or not. Because even the strongest relationships where the buyer is married to someone who makes the product, those things can change. In that example, what could happen? Yeah, divorce. Things happen all the time. And what you don't want to do is write off these relationships, or because you asked for the business a year ago, that is firm in your mind. It was a form of rejection. It stung and it has stuck with you. So that's the reason you're not going to continue to maintain this relationship, because sooner or later, something happens and the relationship can change. And the question is, are you top of mind? Have you delivered enough value that you are the first person that they call when the situation changes? All right, enough rambling. Back to the story.
Its hold on consumers is even tighter. According to Forbes, Nike accounted for 95.5% of the basketball sneaker market in 2014. In short, its grip on the NBA universe is reflective of a corporation claiming Michael Jordan heritage and a $100 billion market cap. All advantages that might explain why Nike's pitch to Curry evokes something hastily thrown together by a hungover college student. The August meeting took place on the second floor of the Oakland Marriott, 3 levels below Golden State's practice facility. Famed Nike power broker and LeBron James advisor Len Merritt was not present, a possible indication of the priority, or lack thereof, that Nike was placing on the meeting. Instead, Nico Harrison, a sports marketing director at the time, ran the meeting. Harrison, who has since been named Nike's Vice President of North America Basketball Operations, did not respond to multiple interview requests. The pitch meeting, according to Steph's father Dell, who was present, kicked off with one Nike official accidentally addressing Stephen as Stephon, the moniker, of course, of Steve Urkel's alter ego in Family Matters. I heard some people pronounce his name wrong before, says Del Curry. I wasn't surprised. I was surprised that I didn't get a correction. It got worse from there. A PowerPoint slide featured Kevin Durant's name, presumably left on by accident, presumably residue from repurposed materials. I stopped paying attention after that, Dell says, though Dell resolved to keep a poker face throughout the entirety of the pitch. The decision to leave Nike was in the works. In the meeting, according to Dell, there was never a strong indication that Steph would become a signature athlete with Nike. They have certain tiers of athletes, Dell says.
All right, I'm going to slide in here. There's a chapter of my book, Behind Your Back, what purchasing managers say once you leave the room and how to get them to say yes. That ties in directly to this. And it's chapter 2.9, and it's called Quit Waving the Gun Around. And I compare it to a firearm. Too many sales reps handle it carelessly. PowerPoint has the tendency to make people lazy as different reps use the same slide decks for different prospects. Evaluate every slide and determine if you need it, if at all. If you do, invest in a graphic designer for a custom deck. If you are going to force people to look at a PowerPoint presentation, you better believe with every bit of conviction in your body, because you are demanding their attention to this. So if it's an image, if it's every word, I would obsess over these. And I have a very memorable debacle where it was probably a Friday afternoon. I was probably less than patient. I do believe I summarily ended a meeting when a salesperson, when I was working at Pulte and I was in purchasing, asked me to review the slide deck. So he was kind of going slide by slide and they're kind of flipping through. And I didn't get the feeling he was totally confident in all of it. And there was just one slide I was looking at. And finally I said, hey, I got to ask you, this graph here doesn't make any sense to me. Walk me through it. Just tell me what the takeaway is from this slide. He kind of looked at me and he said, I'm going to be honest with you. Marketing, they just give this to me and I just try to run through it. No one has ever asked me what it means. I don't know. At this point, I was frustrated and I was annoyed. From the perspective of the salesperson, I might have appeared pissed off. So I said to the salesperson, If you don't believe or understand these slides, why are you wasting my time walking me through them? And I was very frustrated and, well, long story short, they left my office very quickly. So here is rule 2.9 in Behind Your Back. The title is Quit Waving the Gun Around. Now you will hear all the chapters in this book are absurdly small. They're like 150 or 200 words. They're like a page and a half. So quit waving the gun around. PowerPoint is like a gun. Quit waving it around. If you're going to show me a PowerPoint, make sure you know how to use it and make sure it doesn't suck. If you're unsure if your PowerPoint sucks or not, it probably does. So let me give you some advice. Read these 2 books. Number 1 is the HBR, that's the Harvard Business Review, Guide to Persuasive Presentations by Nancy Duarte. This is a Harvard production, so unsurprisingly, it's more of a left-brain view of the presentation process, a logical and systematic breakdown from beginning to end. The second book is essentially the opposite. It's Presentation Zen, Z-E-N, by Gar Reynolds. This is a right-brain creative evaluation of slide deck development, with numerous examples of slides that illustrate the good and the bad of presentations. This book is designed to help you improve your presentation in minutes. When I am doing a keynote or any set of presentations where I have these visuals, every single time I grab these 2 books off my shelf and I just kind of flip through them, making sure I'm not doing anything stupid that's going to annoy my audience or waste their time. So read them, study them, share them, or simply avoid PowerPoint altogether. So again, that is the HBR Guide to Persuasive Presentations and Presentation Zen by Gar Reynolds. You could probably buy both of them for, I don't know, 35, 40 bucks. Cheap investment will absolutely differentiate you. All right, enough of the ramble. Back to the case study.
They have Kobe, LeBron, and Durant, who are the 3 main guys. If he signed back with them, we're on that second tier. Dell makes an analogy back to the past, when Dell's alma mater, Virginia Tech, offered his son the mere opportunity to try out as a walk-on. This was familiar territory for a player who had long prevailed over projections. Wasn't highly recruited, wasn't highly respected, wasn't highly thought of, Dell says. It was kind of like that, you know? Dell's message for his son was succinct. Don't be afraid to try something new. Steph Curry had thrived on proving people wrong for the entirety of his career. He had delighted in it, even. And Nike was giving him fuel.
All right, I'm going to jump in here for a quick aside. Never forget that one of the most fundamental human needs is the need to feel appreciated. Don't forget that, and it's both personal and professional. So when you are thinking about the NFPOs, the needs and fears and pains and opportunities for growth, do not forget that, yes, they have professional aspects of these, but also very personal. If you can understand what motivates this person and their self-identity and what they're trying to achieve both in the job and in life, and you can help them do that, you can build a really strong relationship built on trust very quickly.
The sneaker business exists parallel to the basketball business, except not completely. Estimates peg total sneaker sales somewhere north of $20 billion annually and rising. The total worth of NBA basketball is harder to gauge, but the $2.15 billion sale of the traditionally ignoble Los Angeles Clippers speaks to its riches. Both basketball and basketball shoes are massive operations, deriving their dollars from the consumer's obsession with winners, more specifically, with cool winners. Football can be ugly and popular. Baseball can be slow and profitable. The NBA needs physical charisma, individuals with moves so graceful viewers ache to imitate them. You can't be Michael Jordan, but you can rent a part of his life when you wear Jordans. For millions of people, that slice of happiness is worth the cost. Think of the sneaker world as composed of shadows. Shadows that might or might not reflect the size of players' on-court reputations. Consider Kyrie Irving. He's an all-star, yes, but he has yet to be a serious MVP candidate or even conclude an NBA season healthy. In the sneaker world, though, the lights shine brightly on him, casting a larger shadow over the industry than his game would suggest. Irving's artfully serrated Kyrie ones have done excellent business for Nike, Morgan Stanley projects his 2016 sales at $51 million, and his newest Kyrie 2s received a wide release. Though he has played in only one postseason, Irving's handles, shot making, and viral Uncle Drew advertisements with Pepsi comprises an alchemy of cool, necessary for moving product on a huge scale. Irving, for all his success, is still a relatively short point guard, and relatively short point guards traditionally haven't taken precedence at Nike. Irving's shoes have the lowest price point among their signature stars at around $110, a price tag that suggests volume matters more than prestige. Nike's highest priced shoes are hawked by athletic wings. Michael Jordan was the prototype, Kobe was the heir, and LeBron carries on the tradition. To be the face of Nike means looking something beyond a regular person. As someone familiar with Nike's marketing operations says, in regard to Curry, everything that makes him human and cuddly and an unlikely monster is an anathema to Nike. They like studs with tight haircuts and muscles. This, then, is the paradox of Steph Curry. The reason he was ignored is the reason he's so popular. Nike looked past him for the very reason so many fans now can't look anywhere else. He went to Davidson, Vaccaro says. He was always overlooked. He was skinny. He was frail. He was all the things you weren't supposed to be. He never got his due. All of a sudden, like a bolt of lightning, Steph Curry is on the scene. And this is the hardest thing for Nike to swallow right now. Vaccaro says, what you're witnessing is a phenomenon. This is like Michael Jordan signing with Nike in 1984. He's going to morph into the most recognizable athlete. And why is he going to be that? Because he's like everybody else.
Hey there, I want to add a quick note. You always want to be on the lookout for future leaders. When you see a standout talent at a client firm, make a note. Probe to determine their influence and standing by asking questions like, hey, I've been really impressed with Ben over there at Manchester Lakes. Is he moving through the ranks quickly? Sometimes subtle answers to those questions reveal important dynamics. And remember the little people. Someone might be 23 years old on the job site today, or they might be young, or maybe transferred from a different industry. If you are interested in people and you're constantly trying to deliver value, you can build these relationships long before they ever become significant people, quote unquote, where they have a VP in front of their name or they have buying decisions. This industry, every industry, is a small industry. So take an interest in everybody. Be curious. Look to really build your network. Leverage LinkedIn. The more people that you can know and deliver value to first without expecting anything in return, when these people grow into leadership positions, you will already have that relationship. But you have to start early. You have to start every single day, and it has to be about who you are. Everybody loves talking about how this is a relationship business. My question is, what are you doing proactively, more than other people, to intentionally build relationships, meet new people, connect new people, try to help them achieve whatever goals they have? That's the question.
Nike, to be fair, can't be faulted for failing to foresee the current Steph Curry reality. That reality is just too surreal. Few predicted anything like last year's MVP and championship season, and so far this season, he's making those numbers look quaint. Even Curry's confidants confide they never saw this coming. Those who most deeply believed in Steph Curry, those who, for years, argued on his behalf, couldn't have imagined thousands of fans on the road showing up 75 minutes before tip-off just to catch a glimpse of his warm-up. Still, there were indications of a building trend, signs Nike ignored. In the 2012-2013 season, Curry set the record for made three-pointers, a testament to his unique skill, but also to how the NBA was shifting. The game was drifting further out to the perimeter, with three-pointers taking greater precedent in an increasingly analytically inclined league. Star centers were in short supply. Dwight Howard's reign as the best five-man drew more opprobrium than praise. Point guards were on the rise. The next big thing on the horizon was small. While nobody in 2013 could have foreseen the magnitude of Curry as cultural phenomenon, there were forecasts that something like it was imminent. Over that 2012-2013 season, ESPN's Amin Al-Hassan repeatedly and incredulously stated that Curry should be a superstar. On May 6, 2013, he summarized his case on Twitter. Again, how isn't Curry the most popular player in the NBA? If you're a little kid, you can never relate to 6'8", 250 with 40-inch vertical, but you can relate to Curry. In an Under Armour ad for the Curry 2, as Curry shoots in a darkened arena, Jamie Foxx tosses flashbangs around the court, like the world's most casually psychotic anarchist, while riffing on the notion that a Curry shot takes only 0.4 seconds, presenting it as a symbol of how quickly the game is changing. Just like that, all of a sudden, big ain't so big no more, Fox booms. Small ain't so small. And with the flick of the wrist, the step-back three is the new dunk. Follow-through is the new poster. Range is the new hang time. The implication is clear. This is how the everyman overshadows the jump man.
Hey there, Bradley again. I want you to think about what shifts are taking place in your market right now, and who stands to gain, and who stands to lose. How can you best position yourself to take advantage of this? We are in a dynamic industry and environment. Things are always changing. And demographically, there are some big trends that are happening. Are we aware of these and are we adjusting? Are we thinking about innovation? Because this move from having two giant human beings like Patrick Ewing on the post and Alonzo Mourning just posting up and trying to shoot 4-footers, over time that drifted to this idea of pace and space, which is let's get smaller guys who can run the floor. Let's push the ball up. Let's jack more threes, because if we make a lower percentage of threes than we do twos, we can still win. And this trend happened over several years, but many teams in the NBA were very slow to adapt it. And all of a sudden, they found that there's a 7-footer who weighed 260 pounds, had to chase around someone like Steph Curry, who's 6'3", 180 pounds. And it just wasn't going to happen. So the matchups changed. The game changed. And you look at something like this, the three-point line, I believe came in the late 70s, maybe early 80s. So it had been around for 30, 35 years until Steph said, hey, what if I just saw where the three-point line was and I just backed up even further? What if I got really good at shooting from 30 feet out? And then obviously you have his colleague, Klay Thompson, you have Dame Lillard, and you have this whole generation of people that are incredibly talented because of how often they practice it, shooting from distances that were unheard of. Larry Bird could have done the same thing, but they didn't. Why? The game was different. All the same elements were there, but an innovation took place later. So these sorts of things are happening in our industry now. Are you aware of them? How are we thinking about them? And how are we positioning ourselves to gain from them?
Following a December victory over the Celtics, LeBron James took the typical post-game questions until a query deviated from the norm. A reporter asked him about Under Armour, or at least tries to. LeBron interrupts, saying, Who is that? Later, in an interview with Soul Collector, Curry is asked about the exchange. He says of LeBron, oh, he knows. That's why he said it. James ends the conversation by revealing that only one, sneaker, team is fit for his lips, saying, I only know Nike. That's it. Lifetime. James indeed has a lifetime contract with Nike worth more than $500 million, according to USA Today. He has a 1-year deal with the Cavs, probably as a means of maximizing his profit and leverage. If that reporter had been allowed another subversive follow-up, perhaps this question would have yielded interesting results. Who is your primary employer? Your primary employer is who pays you the most money, ESPN's Bomani Jones says. LeBron was Team Nike before he was a Cleveland Cavalier or a member of the Miami Heat or any of those things. We contextualize guys around the teams they play for because that's the relevant variable for the kind of work that we do. It's perhaps more comforting to believe the team commands primary allegiance. Of course, when it comes to success on the court, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Nike wins if LeBron's Cavs win. It just so happens that James still wears Nikes for his next team, should he ever decide to ditch Cleveland. And James will still draw checks from Nike long after he's done with the Cavs. He's lifetime, after all.
Hey there, 2 quick thoughts. Number 1, always remember the line, follow the money. If you want to understand why people are behaving a certain way, it's not 100% accurate, but it's pretty darn close. Follow the money. Figure out how people make money, who gets it, what they do with it. If you follow the money, you can really understand the behaviors that people have that often from the outside look completely irrational. You also want to make it real easy for the decision maker to identify the professional win, how it benefits their firm, and the personal win, how it benefits them personally. When in doubt, follow the money that directly lands in their pocket. Always tune in the radio to WII-FM. What's in it for me?
Consider, we associate Michael Jordan with the Chicago Bulls, but today, he rarely associates with the Chicago Bulls. In contrast, his Jordan brand association with Nike continues to be fruitful. In 2014, according to Forbes, Jordan earned $100 million from Nike. He made just under $94 million from the NBA contracts over his career. To this day, kids are still wearing Jordans. People across America sport the enduringly cool Jordan 11s, recently retroed to commemorate Chicago's 72-win season. In the fickle world of fashion, Michael's original Jordan 1, released in 1985, is still popular. Look down as you walk the streets of any city, and it's as if Jordan never retired. It's not immortality, but it might be as close as an athlete gets in the ephemeral world in which we live. So Curry and James aren't just salvos in the battle between brands. It's a personal war to see whose cultural impact resonates years after they've retired. It's a fight for something even bigger than a basketball career. And right now, despite 4 MVPs and 2 championships, LeBron James is losing. At the grassroots level, the sneaker business is a turf war. And so it was in the 2012 season, with Brandon Jennings as his top basketball spokesman, Under Armour needed any territory it could get. This is how it came into the orbit of one Kent Bazemore. As an undrafted rookie on the Warriors, sneaker companies had little reason to throw money Bazemore's way. Hell, there was no guarantee Bazemore would even make the team. His agent, Austin Walton, had an idea, though. He contacted Under Armour. I sold them on having a guy on the West Coast. Having a presence there, Walton says. I sold the fact that they had a couple other guys with shoe deals up, Clay and Steph, that maybe, he can get some of the other guys on board if he makes the team. A tentative plan was put into motion. Demonstrate what Under Armour could do for a star by proxy. Lavish Bazemore with the kind of attention that would earn notice from Curry and other high-profile players. Or, as Walton puts it, they sent him a shit ton of gear.
Anytime there's the word shit ton in an article, I feel like I'm going to have to jump in here. So don't underestimate the value of cool, free stuff. Now, note the adjective cool. When I was working in a purchasing role, the end of every year, we would get gifts. We'd get jackets and we'd get hats and we would get mugs. We'd get all this stuff. And I always felt like a total jerk. And maybe you're going to think I was a jerk too. And I would look at it all and I would think, how much of this stuff is cool enough for me to wear? 90% of it, I would then turn around and I would give to the superintendents and the project managers who were out in the field, who were doing the real work. And then sometimes they would look at it and be like, what is this? Is it North Face? No, it's not North Face. Is it Carhartt? No, it's not Carhartt. What? And you could see that they weren't super interested. Now, being someone who owns my own business and we make an investment in stuff, I'm always saying I'd rather get less stuff, but make it really cool and make people want it. Yes, you're going to pay more, but do that, make more of an impact. And what they did with Bazemore here is brilliant. Basically coming in through the side door, making the target jealous by all the ways that you were showering this other guy who's like the 12th man with attention and gear, and then have them think, man, A, why doesn't Nike do that to me? And B, imagine how they would treat me if I was working for them. People want to feel wanted. They want nice gear, make it cool, make more of an investment, invest in quality over quantity. And obviously, Under Armour, Nike, yes, for better or worse, brand matters.
In the summer of 2012, a shipment arrived at Bazemore's tiny bachelor pad in downtown Oakland. Under Armour sent me like 19 boxes in the first shipment to my apartment, he says. I didn't even have furniture at the time. I just had a ton of Under Armour boxes and an air mattress at my place. I was under a non-guaranteed contract my rookie year, so I didn't even have a deal. If I wouldn't have made the team, I didn't know what I was going to do with all the stuff. But sure enough, an ascendant teammate took notice of Bazemore's shoe deluge. He was a rookie for us, and he got more gear and boxes in front of his locker every day than anybody else on the team, Curry says. The gear was ubiquitous around the Warriors' practice facility. Even Golden State staff members were wearing free clothes from the Bazemore largesse. I think Bazemore had more player-exclusive footwear than any other guy on that team, Stone says. And he probably was playing, at the time, 2-3 minutes a night. Bazemore put a number on it, saying I had a merchandise deal where they would send me 60 pairs of shoes for the season. This was a long-shot approach for Under Armour, but Bazemore, a natural salesman with a ready smile, had the personality to give it a chance. He boasts the kind of energy that takes him on 40-mile cycling jaunts. If Bazemore is selling you something, it won't be a subtle pitch. And he just so happened to befriend Curry. They're both North Carolina guys, both Carolina Panthers fans. It didn't matter that one grew up in wealthy Charlotte and the other grew up poor in tiny Kelford, struggling through winters without heat. We're people, Bazemore says. Sometimes you meet someone for the first time, you're like, okay, this guy's a great dude. The friendship was facilitated by Bazemore working late after practice in an effort to remain in the league. Curry, though playing big minutes, kept these kinds of hours as well. I wasn't playing at all, and this guy's playing like 35 minutes a night, Bazemore says. He's in there getting up shots, just as many shots as I am. Friendship begat business. I'll shout anything out, Bazemore boasts. Yeah, I have no shame when it comes to branding. I'll throw Under Armour's name, anything I'm a part of. I'll speak so highly of it. And Steph's like, my deal is up. Bazemore sees the opening. I'm like, man, come over here and get your own shoe. I hadn't talked to anybody at Under Armour about this. I was making all these promises, like get your own shoe. You're the face of the game, sending out all these hypotheticals. I haven't talked to anyone over there. A meeting was set up for Stone to pitch Curry, scheduled before the Nike pitch in Oakland. I remember Steph saying in our presentation when we met with the family down in Charlotte, you guys are doing the stuff for Bazemore. What are you going to do for me? Stone says.
Hey there, Bradley once again. Never forget the impact of social proof. Social proof is so powerful. When other people are doing something, FOMO, fear of missing out, kicks in and interest increases. So what can you do? You can leverage LinkedIn to find connectors at current client firms or prospects who can make an introduction for you. Making an email introduction is easy. It's an easy favor to say yes to, and it is rarely refused.
After the meeting adjourned, Curry texted Bazemore to indicate he might sign with Under Armour. The culmination had arrived. It wasn't a thankless effort for Bazemore either. Now, 3 years later, he makes 6 figures annually with Under Armour, according to Walton, an unusually high figure for a player of his profile. That was signed before last summer when he signed with the Hawks, Walton says. For context, Bazemore averaged 6.0 points the season before inking that lucrative shoe deal. Since then, he has grown into the Hawks rotation, playing 28 minutes per game, helping to further justify a sneaker deal that needed no justification. UA owes him now. Big time. That has something to do with why Bazemore's alma mater, Old Dominion, is now an Under Armour school. We just signed Old Dominion, so that was kind of a give back to Kent. So he's happy about that, Stone says. Under Armour paid nearly 7 times what Nike was paying the school annually before. In turn, Bazemore has poured his resources into ODU, building a new practice facility and submitting the largest donation by an athlete in school history. Bazemore gets his name on a building, and the UA symbol is emblazoned on jerseys in Norfolk, Virginia, because an athlete in Oakland with no visible connection to the university signed with Under Armour. Steph Curry wants to be both a superpower and Switzerland. He wishes to keep peace with Nike, even if he is, perhaps, the greatest personal threat the world's largest sports apparel corporation has ever seen. When Nike reps come to Oracle, Curry smiles and greets them. When the rapper Drake, a Nike signee, comes to town, Steph and his wife, Aisha, take him to the local In-N-Out. Perhaps for these reasons, when you ask Curry about how these negotiations went down, he asks for cute over cutthroat. My favorite story is Riley, Steph says. It's a few weeks before a final decision on the shoe contract must be made. He asks his baby daughter, Riley, which one do you like? At this point, Riley is a little over 1 year old. She is presented with a Nike sneaker, an Adidas sneaker, and an Under Armour sneaker. She picks up shoe 1, a Nike. Threw it over her shoulder, Curry says. She picked up shoe 2. Threw it over her shoulder. She picked up the third shoe. Walked over and handed it to me. So I knew right then, Curry says, smiling.
Sales is like life. It's more random than you can imagine. There are a myriad of variables at play every single day, and any single one of them can impact your deal. So stay disciplined, stay helpful, listen, stay active in your community, be alert for opportunities, then let the chips fall where they may. In my book on prospecting, I talk about you can only control the inputs, not the outputs. So if you deliver value first, and every time you interrupt somebody, you have some value to give, whether it's an insight or a recommendation or a new product or some way that you can help. If you leave the voicemails, you visit the job site, you do everything you can to help, and it is not reciprocated. The email isn't returned. The phone call isn't returned. You're getting ignored. Do not lose faith. You can only control the inputs. After that, you just got to let life take its course. But if you help enough people and your intentions are good on a long enough timeline, you will be incredibly successful.
Maybe it was that moment. Maybe it was over a year of recruiting by Bazemore and Stone. Maybe it was Nike's complacency. Whatever the cause, the result probably changes the flow of billions of dollars, creating a jet stream that takes fortunes out of Oregon and flies the monies to Maryland. Some would say the Curry disaster invigorates Nike, motivating the company right as it seizes another key advantage. As athletic companies move into wearable technology, Nike boasts Apple CEO Tim Cook as a member of its board. Sonny Vaccaro is less sanguine on what losing Curry means for one of the world's biggest companies. This is Nike's biggest fear, he says. They can't overcome this in the shoe business. This is going to be detrimental to them, psychologically. If that's so, that psychological damage was self-inflicted. For all Under Armour did, and for all Nike didn't do, Nike still had an opportunity to salvage the situation when Curry indicated he wanted to sign elsewhere. In 2013, Nike retained Curry's matching rights, analogous to how NBA restricted free agency works. They still could have signed Curry, regardless of his preferences. According to a September 16, 2015 report from ESPN's Darren Ravel, Nike failed to match a deal worth less than $4 million a year. Stone says of his rival, they made the decision not to match. That was just their decision. It wasn't because the deal was so out of their ballpark. Stone characterizes the decision as, if you don't want to be here, then don't be here. Athletes are expected to want Nike, to have always wanted Nike from the time they were kids. This, after all, is the company with the richest tradition. Michael Jordan defines that past and still outsells their modern athletes. The Jordan brand's most popular shoes are, of course, the sneakers MJ actually played in. They released new models, brandished by Russell Westbrook. Their newest, the Jordan 30, comes with a Westbrook-focused ad narrated by a child-age hype man. The kid yells, "What do y'all expect? Another choir boy running point?" It's a jab that did not go unnoticed in Curry's camp. The ad's closing tag is, "The next frontier of flight." Perhaps this is how Nike missed. Years of promoting Michael Jordan descendants made them oblivious to a player who shot the ball all over that whole paradigm. It left them vulnerable to Kent Bazemore, in a company with less than 1% of the sneaker market. The next frontier of flight didn't happen to be the next frontier of basketball. The next frontier happened to be Steph Curry, whose launches aren't leaps, yet whose range commands a zeitgeist.
Now, I am still a Nike guy. With a new basketball league starting at my local gym recently, I was in the market for a new pair of kicks. "Dad, what kind of shoes are you going to get?" my 9-year-old son asked. Nikes, of course. I haven't bought a pair of non-Nike athletic shoes in a quarter century. At Dick's Sporting Goods, the shoe department boss recommended I try on the Curry 2s. "Can't do it," I said. "Nikes only." He goes, I know. I'm a Nike guy too. However, once I tried these on, I had to give Under Armour a chance. It's a great shoe. Giving a little hat tip to the salesmanship there at Dick's Sporting Goods, and hoping to hate them, I slipped on the Curry 2s. Damn, they felt good. Really good. Now, I'm still a Nike guy, but $100 previously destined for Beaverton, Oregon, flew to Maryland. All right then, friend, how did that go? Very different than a normal podcast episode, but hopefully you got value from this. And again, if you are interested in getting your hands on this case study, go ahead and email us directly at info@bradleyhartmanandco.com. We'll get that out to you, and hopefully you can learn from it. I think there are lessons everywhere. And if you've been listening to this podcast for any amount of time, you know I love to kind of find these lessons and insights that cross over from different domains like sports or music or anything else. So hopefully you enjoyed that. We're going to close out like we always do. You, my friend, are owed nothing. Deliver value first. Make it a great week.